Hey guys, Rob Murphy from Holistic Healing Choices here, and today I've just finished reading the book The Woman Who Changed Her Brain by Barbara Arrowsmith Young, and I want to have a bit of a talk about it because I'll tell you what, it is inspiring. So for those that don't know, Barbara has started, after suffering from a learning deficiency herself, the Arrowsmith School. Now what they do is they take children with all sorts of learning difficulties and get them, train them, or teach them ways that they can change their brains so they no longer have to live with these learning difficulties. Now it's very heart-wrenching sort of stuff. So these people are smart in most areas, but for instance, numbers might not make sense to them. Or they might not be able to read a map, decipher a map to save their life. They have no directional skills. They might not be able to see or spell or things that just don't go right for them. So for instance, object recognition. Now that can even come down to faces. So you can see someone that you know, like your own mother for instance, and not recognize their face. Spatial reasoning, so you don't know the space between things, so you can't tell a meter between 10 meters. Kinetic speech, so you're slurring your words, and a whole host more that they go into the back of the book, but each chapter is devoted to one specific type of learning deficiency. So this one is a follow-on from The Brain That Changes Itself, in that one was written by Norman Doidge, MD. I'm sure I'm not saying that correctly. And in that, he talks about how the brain can actually change itself, so neuroplasticity in this way. And it is so interesting and inspiring. There are so many stories in here of people that have been helped with the Arrowsmith School that you really got to give it up. It's an inspiration. So if you haven't read this book, give it a read. Absolutely phenomenal. And you may even see some things in there that relate to yourself or someone you know who, may have just gone undiagnosed with one of these learning deficiencies. For instance, I know they say in there a lot that there were so many kids in there that said their teachers, their report cards had come back with, could do better, just needs to apply himself. Now, mine said that, but I know mine was just down to laziness. But think of how many people are actually out there struggling with this sort of stuff, that don't know, that go undiagnosed with these learning deficiencies, difficulties. And it just blows your mind, some of the stories in there where, things that can be passed off as bad behaviour, arrogance, or just a willingness to not learn are actually because they can't, because that part of their brain isn't developed enough. And so the Arrowsmith School has developed these techniques to help change that. Now, one of the criticisms is I would have liked more examples of what they do to actually help change the brain in that case. Because while there are examples in there, she uses one for a clock method, that's cool, but I would like to see how they step it up over time as well. Just things like that to give you an idea of how and the time frame it takes for most people to overcome these difficulties. Because most have a happy ending that are in this book anyway. And that gets me thinking, are these things where these brain training applications and all of these new little games and stuff, are these the things that they're helping us with? So there I've talked about on my channel before, I've gone through Peak and Elevate, which are great brain training apps. Now, if you have one of these learning deficiencies or difficulties, going onto that app and then being graded against their whole user base would be so daunting. So, I don't know, I haven't explored one in a little while, but is there a way that you can do it without that? So you can go along and see your progress. more so than charging against the whole user base. Because that's what I'd really like to see. Something, like if these guys developed an app, that would be wonderful. That'd be awesome. So you can go through and improve your own stuff as you see fit. But anyway guys, if you haven't read this and read how these people have changed so many lives, like this is the stuff that needs to be in more schools, regardless of whether people have those learning difficulties or not. Torture them so they can, one, identify it and even just change in certain areas. So if they are lagging in maths, doing some of those number exercises to help maybe pick them up, because maybe it's just something that they're not understanding. And it's a case of two, do these people just go through school just thinking they're done and then just continue life being done? Whereas there could be something that could be readily done about it. It just blows my mind, like going through school and seeing other people who were absolutely struggling with this shit. Could they have done something and created something out of themselves, you know, rather than... It's led to in the book there that so many of these kids were considering suicide. Pretty well because they thought there was nothing for them. So it just opens your mind to, wow, why isn't this more widely regarded, more accepted? Which still blows my mind. That, you know, this edition came out in 2016. Now we're in 2020. But, I don't know. At the end of the day, do yourself a favour and give this book a read. It was awesome. Read it in a matter of days and I absolutely enjoyed every single moment of it. So many different examples of learning difficulties. So maybe the same learning difficulty, but just given a few different case studies and how each case study varied, whether it changed their attitude, whether they became more withdrawn, things like that. And then the success story afterwards as well. I haven't done the stats on like how many people have gone through the Arrowsmith School and it hasn't helped, but I'm sure that they seem to have a very dedicated staff there now. And it goes into the book a bit too about the history of it and how it had to close down for a little while and then how people were crying out for this, so they brought it back. But anyway guys, I thought I'd just have a touch on that. Like, yeah, this is one that's really inspired me, give me hope that, you know, if this got out there, this is life-changing stuff. I know I like to say about how much stuff can change and how your actions can change that, but if you don't know that you can't do something, there are ways to develop and get better at it. But it will take your own determination to get better as well. It's not just going to happen overnight, you've got to keep at it. But yeah, give The Woman Who Changed Her Brain a bit of a go. If you don't like it, you don't like it, but anyway, it's awesome. Anybody who's into self-development or self-help and stuff like that should give it a read. But anyway guys, that's it for me for this one. Please like, comment, subscribe. I'm Rob Murphy, and I'll see you in the next video.